There's a certain gun season strategy that's worked for me on public and private land. And I think it's important to discuss because so many people are blowing their gun seasons out and ruining their opening day before it even comes, because they're haphazardly putting blinds in, building blinds, putting pop-ups in, clearing shooting lanes, accessing poorly, getting into their stands poorly, hunting one blind regardless of the wind, regardless of the weather, and they're ruining their hunt before it even begins. And I want to make sure you have success and find success, and this is the easy way to do it. Opening day, gun season in Pennsylvania, and opening day out in the public land. I think I've shot out of 20 seasons, $14 an opening day, something like that, going back to 93. So these are strategies I use and employ. I'll use them in Michigan this year. I'll use them in Pennsylvania again. It's what I like to do, and it's been very successful for me. And there might be a better way out there, but this has worked really well for me, and it's something I can count on for delivering success or offering me a high potential level of success each and every gun season. So number one, think bedding. Think bedding first. Now, a great bedding area is not a great bedding area unless there's some distant food source somewhere. Because why is you're going to bed there? They want to relate to a food source every single afternoon they're going to. They feed 5 times in a 24-hour period. So that bedding area has to have browse. But they want to feed on a high quality food source in the afternoon somewhere. Does within 100 to 200 yards, bucks within a quarter mile, a half mile, depending if it's on public land or not, maybe even 3/4 mile to a mile if they're going to hit evening bait piles. They're going to be far back in the woods, UP and Michigan. But bottom line, it has to be a bedding area. Because if you're going into a food source in the morning, the deer are already there and you're going to spook them. So it's not a great time to go into a food source in the morning on opening day. Because if you sit at a food source opening day, you potentially spook the deer out in the morning, like sitting on a food plot with a big box blind. You ruin the hunt in the morning. Sitting on a bait pile, same thing. And then you go back in, you're staying there all day, and then the deer you're expecting to go back into that bait pile in the evening aren't going to come because you already spooked them out in the evening. But bottom line is you're limiting yourself all day, because you're sitting on a food source where they're only coming into in the last hour of daylight. And you already spooked them out again going into the morning. So think bedding area first, and then think distant food that actually supplies deer to that bedding area, because the food is what's throwing deer into that bedding area. That's why on private land you should have a food plot, or you're not going to have that, especially if someone else has a food plot in the neighborhood a mile, 2 miles away. They're going to take all the deer away from you. Because if they have quality food, doesn't matter how quality your bedding area is, if you don't have food to support it, you're not going to have deer in there. That's the same with public land. You want to have clear cuts. You want to have quality clear cuts, young clear cuts. You want to have diversity of habitat, transition from upland to lowland. You want to find diversity. If you find diversity, you're going to find food, and especially those clear cuts, remote clear cuts, 1 to 3 years old in southern areas, up to 5 to 8 years old in northern areas, just because it grows more slowly and that browse is available for a longer period of time up north. But really consider that distant food source, and then consider that bedding area. And then the setup. I'm looking at not going through a food source, and I'm getting on the downwind side of that bedding area. Now, I'm not going in there and clearing shooting lanes. In fact, most of the time I'm going and setting up a pop-up blind or a climber stand, and I'm setting it up at that time when I go in to hunt. Just sitting on a stool, whatever it might be, but I'm doing that at the time I hunt, because if I go in there a few days ahead of time, leaving my scent all over the place, making shooting lanes, I'm ruining the spot. I'd rather have shorter shooting lanes that are just natural and not leave any scent and go hunt deer that are unsuspecting, then go in there 3 or 4 days ahead of time, clear lanes, and let the deer know that I'm there. So make sure you're going in an unsuspecting deer. You're on that downwind edge. Now that could be, Dylan and I were talking about a spot today where I have the hillside at my back. I'd go down the hillside, steep face, and then it flattens out. I've hunted a lot of great setups like that on public and private land, where I have the steep hillside at my back where deer aren't supposed to be or shouldn't be. And then I'm watching that flat that gently goes down in front of me where I have good visibility and shooting lanes, but it's a bedding area. I'm at the top of the bedding area. I'm getting there in the morning, and I'm planning on staying there all day. If it's a flat, I can see shooting lanes in it. I'm only going to be able to shoot 30, 40 yards in a small property, private property somewhere. But I'm on that downwind edge. I'm sitting there all day. I have distant food that's supplying that area, and I can sit there and enjoy it. I'm making sure I have all day covered. If you like snacks, bring a backpack in there. Pop-ups I love. You're considering where you're putting that pop-up based on brush in the area so it blends in. It's not just out in an open flat and an open hardwoods. No reason to be there or to hunt there in the first place. but you're getting on that downwind edge. Just these kind of tactics have worked for me since the early 90s. Whether it was just a blind that I kicked some sticks together and some brush, sat against a tree in 93 and shot a nice palmated buck, or fast forwarding to where I'm actually going with a pop-up, sticking it up. My son Jake shot his first buck when he was 10 like that. We went in with a pop-up, went into a big bowl, went on a flat in that bowl. We had the wind to our advantage. We were able to watch all the changes around us in the benches. And we were in there for an all-day sit because we couldn't get out. There were deer around us. We couldn't get out of that location. So you're considering that's all day. So make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you have snacks, something to drink. And you could have a great, not only a great sit, but a comfortable sit, which is even better. You have to control your scent. That's so critical. So you have all-day comfort. In number 4, that might mean that you have to move in hill country. And what I mean by that is, that's great if I'm facing down into a bedding area bowl and wind's in my face. I have the hill at my backside, and that wind's coming into my face in the morning. That means if that wind is still appreciable in the evening, it's not dying. If it's dying down to 0 mile an hour before dark or at dark, that means my scent with the thermals is gonna go right back downhill into that bedding area. If I have moderate winds in the evening, winds in my face, that means it'll keep pushing it uphill, but you need more power to push it uphill the taller the hill. So most whitetail country, as long as you're 5 to 8 miles an hour in the evening and that wind's in your face, it's gonna push it back uphill, and that'll work for you. The problem is, it's actually an advantage in the morning. If you have wind over your back coming this way, it's gonna wrap around that hill. So it's coming over the top of you. You're looking down, it's gonna come and hit you in the face. The problem is once the thermals start to take place in the afternoon, you have a whole morning, afternoon, you have to get out of there about 3-4 hours before dark. Because what's gonna happen is that pull that you're counting on and that wraparound, that wind going around and into your face, the thermals are eventually going to pull it right downhill in front of you, and you're going to saturate that whole area the last couple hours of daylight. So you have the luxury. If you went in there in the afternoon and you had to move around or do something, you wouldn't know what deer are bedded where. So you're going to spook them. Remember, you're on the outside of a bedding area. The cool thing is when you've sat there all morning, in a couple hours in the afternoon, you have the luxury of knowing where deer are at, when they're feeding, when they get up. So instead of saying, well, I'm gonna get out at 1 or 2 and go move, if 12:30 the coast is clear, get out of there. If 12:30 deer are feeding, wait another hour. They'll move through. They'll go bed over here, bed over there, and then you can sneak out because you have the luxury of knowing where the deer are at because you spent the whole morning there. It's a great tactic. You're just getting on the outside of bedding area. And a lot of times what's really cool about that is you have the wind at your advantage. Deer running into that bedding area from neighboring properties. They know that bedding area is there. You've accessed that by not walking through the bedding area to get to the stand location. You've gone around the outside. You're controlling your wind. You have a distant food source that you didn't walk through on the way in. You get in there early. You're dressed for comfort. You bought snacks. You're gonna be comfortable all day. Just let the bedding area fill up with other people that aren't doing the same, because I can guarantee you most people aren't hunting that way on opening day of gun season. You can manage that sit for opening day. I'll go do that the second day, maybe the third. But the problem is a lot of times with the neighboring pressure, those deer are already going to be in that bedding area that you're hunting by the second, but especially the third and fourth day. So that's my opening day strategy. That's my second day strategy. And then outside of that, I'm hunting funnels on the way to that bedding area, on the way out. I'm hunting a lot of evening food sources. And really, opening day is a special time. You have an opportunity. Don't blow it, whether it's on private or public land. This strategy will work. And I hope you have a great hunt and a safe opening day this fall. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.